Welcome to today's video where we're going to weld back together the cooler and shorten up the tunnel. So we set up some shelving above it. It's basically made like a little gantry crane. So we could pick up the sled, flip it over, weld both sides. It works super slick.
Yeah, if you pick it up by the front bumper, you can flip it and rotate it pretty easily. Works really well.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Alright, so we got it all welded up. You can see my plug weld is basically where we drilled through all the way to catch each side of the cooler channels.
Can I see it from the bottom?
And what's interesting, when we did drill it, you could see the seam, because you can't, like, you know, you're getting in, basically it's like a four-way hole, so it creates like a diamond shape, and it was like that little, you'd have like a pinhole and it could end up leaking out here and you couldn't really tell. So burned all that in, had quite a bit of warpage.
Can't really see here. It'll be fine.
All covered by the tank. So now we're gonna pressure test. Got a big old hose on here. We have that blocked off, and then we're gonna put the air in and we're gonna watch it and see if it basically drops pressure, and we'll just spray some.
Yeah, we got some soapy water here. So we'll see how it goes. Hopefully it doesn't blow up on us, right?
I'm only gonna do like
Leaking out of one of the fittings.
leaking here, but
They're pushing on the back one. Okay. So then you'll just,
oh, we got a leak. No bueno.
yeah, top and bottom.
You see it?
Yeah, a little bit on the bottom too. And I don't know if that could just be rolling over.
Same spot.
Yeah.
Hold it right there.
It's hard to, I mean,
Alright, so once you get everything welded back together, you want to pressure test it. This is the most important part. This is where you find a lot of leaks. And boy, do we have a lot of leaks.
yeah.
So basically rigged up, this is just an old
It's the
silicone
same hose that
hose.
we use to flush the
Yep.
coolers.
And then basically we put an air hose fitting on there. So you plug up, we have another hose with a plug on the one end. And then this way we can pressurize the whole system, excluding the engine. So this is just the tunnel. So it's like you block the inlet and you have the outlet with this. And then you set your
The PSI on our
air compressor. Set the air compressor, right, yeah. And we pushed it to like 20 to 25 PSI. Don't go any higher than that. We actually saw it balloon up. You want to be careful because there's a stir weld that the factory does, and you don't want to split that apart.
And you don't need to go higher than that because it's only
The cap, yeah, the radiator cap only goes to 16 psi, so theoretically anything higher than 16 psi, it's going to bleed out anyway. So, 20, 25 psi is pretty good. Then you take a spray bottle with some soapy water, spray it around, and you'll see little air bubbles if you have any pinholes.
And that's where we're at. We're
Chasing pinholes.
2,000 years later. One eternity later.
So basically for the past few hours we've been chasing pinholes. It gets very frustrating. Probably if I do this again, this is not the way I would do it.
Yeah, really frustrating.
Essentially what's happening is, I don't know if you want to grab the video, do a close up here. Zoom in on this. So here's how this is made. These are called stir welds. So you have a top and a bottom, and the shape is formed in the bottom. They put it together and they basically have a robot machine that goes around and creates this weld. And it's a watertight, airtight seam.
And that's on the inside and outside. It's harder to see on the outside because of overspray.
So the way that we're welding is we cut it out of the middle and we're butting it back together. But what ends up happening is you can't get full penetration. And what ends up happening is you're chasing this seam all the time. So it's like you get a weld here, it starts leaking out here, and you're like, well, we didn't even weld back there. But what's happening is when you butt the two together, when you weld it, it's basically just pushing it from here to there, from there to there. It's a nightmare. Hopefully we'll get it buttoned up, but basically I've been going in and drilling holes. If I get a pinhole leak there, I'm drilling a big hole and I'm trying to get in and weld this seam. We'll see how it goes.